Hey, I'm back, and today I want to show you a way to create some variation in a background percussion track like a hi-hat, a shaker, etc. Recently I've been working on this new song. It's not quite finished yet. I still want to add some guitars and other things to it, but I'll let you take a listen. It's kind of like a hip-hop style track, so I want you to listen to it and listen specifically to the hi-hats. So as you heard, you can hear the hi-hats are probably a little bit more interesting than you normally hear. So I'll let you hear first I have actually two hi-hat tracks here. So this is the first one, it's fairly simple. Not that interesting, but then I have the other hi-hat track doing all the kind of things you'd hear in trap music like the triplet rolls, etc. And I did some other interesting things to it. So here are both hi-hat tracks together. So hopefully that's interesting to you, and I'll show you how I did it in a new project. Here we are in a new project, and in this one I'm using an audio track. This can be done with MIDI or, a WAV file. So this is something that can be used for anything, even if you have like a pre-recorded loop. So the first thing I'm going to do is the auto panning. So I'm going to use M auto pan. This is actually a free one, so you don't have to pay any money for it. You can get this in the free collection. And if you see it here, it's moving really fast. I don't really want that. So let's enable the synchronization, because I do want this to be in time. And instead of a quarter note, let's move this down to 1, which is 1 bar. And let's listen to this. That's good, but let's say I don't want this sine wave pattern. I don't want it to slowly go from left to right. I want something a little bit more dramatic. Let's enable the step sequencer. So first, move this to 100%. And now let's edit it and change the pattern. So this has 8 steps, so that means every 8th note it's going to change. And I could leave it like this where it just goes back and forth, but let's try something a little bit more interesting. So let's just kind of move these at random, like this. Like that. Okay, and now let's listen to this. So that's what I like. If you notice any clicking or anything, you might want to try this smoothness knob. So when it has these sharp edges here, sometimes you'll get clicks. I didn't really hear any there, but sometimes you will. And all you have to do is just do this, and it'll smoothen things out, but it doesn't really change the sound that much. So that's just something to try if you notice that. And here I'm using a 1-bar pattern, but if I wanted a longer pattern, let's say a 2-bar pattern, so it's not quite as predictable, all I have to do is increase this to 2 like this, and then I have to remember to double the amount in my step sequencer here, so it'll be at the same rate. So instead of 8, I'll do 16. And now let me just randomly move these also, so it's somewhat similar. Move this up, there, like this. Okay, and now we have the same thing, but it's a 2-bar pattern like this. So there we go. That's it for the auto panner. There's other things you can use like the depth. This is kind of like a wet dry. It just determines the amount of the effect. All the way down here, it's mono. All the way up here, it's really wide. So let me just play it once and I'll demonstrate what it does. So I hope you're wearing headphones. If you are, you can hear how wide that's getting. I don't like it to be that wide, so I usually set it about 50. The pan law is the same. The pan law, look up pan laws if you don't understand what they are, but basically, when something is completely right or completely left, it will generally drop in volume. So by increasing it, we'll make it 6 decibels in a 6 decibel increase when it's completely on the right or the left. You might want to turn that down so it's not quite as prominent there. Like I might turn it to like 3, but you can adjust that however you want. But that's it for this auto pan. The second effect I want to use is a frequency shifter, and we're going to use M frequency shifter multiband. So this one you actually do have to pay for, but it's not so expensive. And what this does is it'll let me change the pitch. So let me go to a preset. I don't want the easy screen, I want the normal screen. And so let's adjust some things here. So I want the wet dry at 100%, shift at 0 at first. The width I don't really care about. The feedback I don't want any. I leave that at 0. And the delay I want at 0. So let me play it and I'll mess with the shift so you can hear what it does. Here we go. So as you heard there, it's changing the pitch. This works really well with percussive materials. Frequency shifters are great for any kind of percussive material. For pitch material, they can sometimes sound strange, but for any type of drum, I think they work really well. I think they actually work better than pitch shifters. In the future, I'll try to get into that, but let's not go so far into it now. And I'm going to do something similar to what I did with the auto pan. So I'm going to look here like this, and you see where it says mod here. I'm just going to click here where it says clear and learn. And now I'm going to play it again and adjust the shift until I hear the amount of shift I want to use. So those are the extremes. Now they're recorded in here. All I have to do is click this again. It stops. And now it's working here. So I could use this sine wave here. Let's say enable this, make sure it's on. Now it's moving. I'll do it a little bit faster and I'll let you hear what this does. That's kind of interesting, but let's do this the same way as we did the auto pan, and that's by using sync. Set it to 1 bar, and let's use the step sequencer. So I'll do, let's say, 1/8 notes. That's good. Do different values like this, here, like this. So now when we hear it, we should hear some pretty drastic swings. I want to use the, see now it's really like moving back and forth quickly. I'm going to use a little bit of smoothness, just so there's no clicks. And let's hear this. So it wasn't quite smooth enough, and that's why you heard that little pop there. But as I, adjusted the smoothness, it smoothed it out a little bit. And here I think I'm probably doing a little bit too much. So I'm going to move the maximum value down a bit and move this value up a little bit. So there's not quite as much difference. Let's hear it one more time. So you can adjust that however you want. I think this is probably a bit too much here, so I'm going to move that down. But like I said, you can do whatever you want, adjust these minimal and maximal values to whatever you want and whatever you think sounds good. And now in the end, I'll put them both together so you can hear what it sounds like. So I think that's much more interesting than just this. I just did this with a hip hop 808 sound just because that's what I was working on, but of course you could use this with shakers or any other percussion element. It's really good with something like a loop where you can't really control the sound of the different hits. This really gives you some kind of control over it. So, that's it for today. If you like this, give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that. And until next time, see you.